Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another card video at my YouTube channel and blog. Today I'm going to be using these two products from Simon Says Stamp. This is the Love Stamp Set and Love Die Set that coordinate with it. And I did those two products for Simon for their last release. And I'm also going to be using that stencil from Heidi Swap and 3 colors of Cosmic Shimmer Paste. I'm using Lavender Mist, Apple Red, and Pink Blush. So I'm going to start out with the stencil and the shimmer paste. I've taped down some white cardstock. This is Neenah Solar White cardstock, and it's cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 right now. I'll trim it down later. But I've taped that down to a craft sheet, and then I've also taped the stencil on top. I'm going to start out with that light pink shimmer paste, and I'm going to apply it directly onto the stencil, just at the very top of the cardstock piece. I'm smearing it on using this palette knife. I believe this palette knife is from Ranger and it's very inexpensive. I think I bought like 3 or 4 of them at the same time, and I like to just have them on hand because sometimes these palette knives can get kind of gritty and kind of messed up if you don't clean them off right away, and I'm kind of notorious for that. So I wanted to have a few of these on hand. So I spread out some of that shimmer paste onto a craft sheet, and then I cleaned off my palette knife right away, and I'm going to go into the red color, the apple red color. I'm going to add a little bit to that pink shimmer paste that's on my craft sheet, and I'm going to mix these two colors together. This is going to make it a little bit easier to create a kind of an ombre look in all of this shimmer paste. So I'm mixing that up, and then I'm applying it directly onto that area below the pink. I'm kind of mixing that a little bit while on the stencil. And then I'm going to clean off my palette knife once again. I'm going to clean it off and then take some red from that jar and put it over onto my project. And while I've got that red shimmer paste on my palette knife, I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit more and add that out onto my craft sheet. Now I'm going to mix the red shade into that lavender mist shade. So it's the same thing I did from the pink to red. I'm creating a transition color. So now I need to create a transition color between the red and the purple. This is going to make it so that as I create this ombre look and go from color to color, that I don't have like a really harsh change of color, if that makes sense. Another thing that really helps when you're doing this kind of ombre shimmer look is to make sure that you have colors that are somewhat similar in hue and tone, so that as you transition, it's not such a hard, harsh line when you're transitioning. So for instance, if you were going from, let's say, yellow to blue, you might want to pick a third shimmer paste of green that goes in the middle there. You can definitely mix your own shade like I've been doing here, but it sort of helps to just have a color in between. So instead of going from that light pink to this purple, I added the red in the middle. So you also want to remember to make sure to clean off your palette knife after you've mixed the colors before you go into a jar of pure color. That's going to help save your jars of shimmer paste. So I cleaned up my work surface right away, and then I peeled up that stencil. You can see the really cool design that this leaves behind. I think it looks really neat, and the ombre color is a really nice transition. So I'm going to go clean off my stencil right away. I just run it under cold water, and I use a soft brush. I use a nail brush actually to kind of wipe away all of that shimmer paste. So now I've got that die set that I showed you earlier. This is the Love die set. And you can actually buy the stamp and dies together in a set called Christina's Love, but you can buy them separately also. So I'm going to separate these two dies, and I'm going to be using this DIY Party vellum pack from We Are Memory Keepers. I thought these vellums were such pretty colors, and I could definitely use them on cards. So I'm going to pick out a color to use for the background area of this die, and I chose to use the light pink. I thought it would go really well on top of that ombre. So I'm going to cut out the outline shape using the light pink vellum. And I'll just run that through my Big Shot machine. And then I use some Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock to cut the actual word. So the word is cut out of white, and then I've got the background piece out of vellum. I'm going to adhere these together using some Ranger Multimedia Matte Adhesive. And I'm just dabbing that on little tiny dots all along that die cut. And then I'll use my tweezers and just position that over the top of that background vellum piece that I die cut. Some of these die cuts, as they are cut, they can kind of stretch a little bit, or kind of more warp a little bit. So I'm just using my tweezers to help get that in the right position so that it's centered within that background die cut. So I'll press that down, making sure it's nice and adhered. Then I'll take a clear acrylic block, or you could use anything that's a little bit heavy, and just place that over the top of this die cut, and then that'll just help it stay stuck together while it dries. So I'm using the stamp set now, and I'm stamping onto some Licorice Twist cardstock from Bazzill. I've prepped the area with an anti-static powder tool, and then I'm stamping 2 segments of words. I've got the word sending and then and comfort. I thought this would be a nice sort of somewhat cheerful sympathy card, or kind of an encouragement card. I have some friends that are going through some tough things right now, so I thought I would send this off to them. So I'm sprinkling on some white embossing powder. I stamped that in Versamark and then put Hero Art's white embossing powder on top. And I heat set that until it was melted. And then I placed everything on top of that shimmer paste cardstock piece. And I realized that it needed something behind it so you could really read the words more clearly. So I cut a strip of red vellum from that same vellum pack, and then adhered the love die cut right on top, and then adhered the sending and comfort using some foam strips. So those black background words are standing up from the surface a little bit. I put some foam tape on the back. I'm going to add some tape runner adhesive on the ends of this red vellum piece. And this is going to make it so that as I wrap it around the shimmer paste piece, I can just fold over those edges and adhere everything all together. I also wanted to mention that I did trim down that shimmer paste piece so that it was 4 inches wide by 5 1/4 tall. This is going to make it so that I can have a little bit of border around the edges on top of my card base. And speaking of my card base, I'm using some Neenah Desert Storm. This is the 100-pound version of that cardstock color, and I've scored that at 5 1/2 to create a top folding card. I then adhered that down onto the card base using some foam adhesive. And that finishes the card for today. This is a really easy and simple looking card, but there's a little bit of technique in there with the ombre shimmer paste. So I hope you guys enjoyed that idea. Thanks so much for watching. I will be back on Monday with another card video. Until then, thank you so much for watching.